Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, I'm Nurfid Effendi. Tonight in Primetime Asia, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says nuclear-armed North Korea poses an over-threat, a declared threat to the world. Speaking in Beijing after talks with his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Kerry said the United States will do what is necessary to protect his country and their friends and allies in the world. China is North Korea's chief diplomatic protector and economic benefactor, but those ties have become strained in recent years as Beijing's patience wears thin with Pyongyang's unwillingness to rein in its nuclear weapons ambitions. After the latest test on January 6, which Pyongyang said was a miniaturized hydrogen bomb, a claim largely dismissed by experts, China said it firmly opposes the North's actions and summoned its diplomats for solemn representations. Nevertheless, the Asian power has proven reluctant to follow Washington's lead on the issue, and no substantive actions towards the North have been announced. Also in tonight's Primetime Asia, India and France are currently negotiating the purchase of French combat planes to replace India's aging Indian Air Force aircrafts. The fighter jet deal is part of a $150 billion military modernization drive India has launched. Later in the program, India and Vietnam will benefit from a Chinese satellite imaging service that cover the region, including China and the South China Sea. And good news for astronomy enthusiasts. According to new research, the solar system may host a ninth planet that is about 10 times bigger than Earth and orbiting far beyond Neptune. But first, on the issue of North Korea's latest nuclear test, Katini Knox with the details.
South Korean President Park Geun-hye has called for a meeting of 5 countries, excluding North Korea, to discuss that country's nuclear program alongside long-stalled 6-party talks that include Pyongyang. Park's comments came amid a flurry of diplomatic exchanges involving Washington and Beijing as the international community seeks to impose fresh sanctions on North Korea for its 4th nuclear test on January 6th. China, Pyongyang's main ally, has been calling for a resumption of so-called 6-party talks among the 2 Koreas, China, the United States, Japan and Russia, aimed at curbing North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Numerous efforts to restart the 6-party talks have failed since negotiations collapsed following the last round in 2008. President Park also said China's role was essential in adopting strong sanctions at the United Nations Security Council, repeating her calls for Beijing to act. Earlier this month, North Korea said the country conducted a hydrogen bomb test as a means of self-defense against a U.S. threat of nuclear war and had a sovereign right to do so without being criticized. Following the new developments, 26 U.S. fighter jets are being sent from the mainland to Yokota Air Base in western Tokyo. The warplanes include state-of-the-art F-22 stealth aircraft. American military officials say the planes are being dispatched for a training mission, but some observers say the dispatch is likely intended as a warning to North Korea following its 4th nuclear test. A U.S. spokesperson says the training mission is designed to enhance military capabilities, to promote stability in the Asia-Pacific, and fulfill the U.S. obligation to defend Japan. Sources say the fighter jets will take part in drills in and around the southern prefecture of Okinawa. The U.S. Navy is also sending an aircraft carrier from Washington State to Asia. The USS John C. Stennis will serve in the Western Pacific along with the USS Ronald Reagan, which is stationed in Yokosuka near Tokyo. It will be the first time since November that 2 U.S. aircraft carriers have been deployed in the region. In a news conference recently, Defense Minister Jen Nakatani referred to the 26 U.S. fighter jets, including the F-22 Raptor stealth aircraft. Nakatani says the deterrence provided by the U.S. military is essential for Japan's security, as North Korea's nuclear test on January 6th has increased tensions. He said the Japanese government was not given any prior notice about the dispatch of the fighter jets. Also on the subject of warplanes, Indian and French negotiators were haggling over the price of 36 combat planes for the aging Indian Air Force. The fighter jet deal is part of a $150 billion military modernization drive India has launched, drawing global arms makers into one of the world's biggest markets. The French President, Mr. Hollande, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi stepped into the estimated $9 billion deal last year, ordering government-to-government talks after commercial negotiations with the plane maker Dassault Aviation collapsed. Mr. Hollande was the guest of honour at India's Republic Day parade this week in a sign of deepening political and commercial ties. US President Barack Obama was given that honour last year. Mr. Modi welcomed Mr. Hollande into the city of Chandigarh, designed in the 1950s by a French architect. It is one of 100 smart cities Modi has designated for rapid development, in which the French will be partners. The two sides are also discussing a plan by French nuclear company Areva to build 6 reactors in Western India as part of Modi's push to ramp up nuclear capacity. This will be the 5th time that a French leader will be the chief guest at India's Republic Day celebrations. China hopes that the satellite tracking station and imaging center that will be set up in southern Vietnam by India can be beneficial for the regional peace and stability. The facility will give Hanoi access to pictures from Indian Earth observation satellites that cover the region, including China and the South China Sea. The move, which could irritate Beijing, deepens ties between India and Vietnam, who both have long-running territorial disputes with China. While billed as a civilian facility, security experts said improved imaging technology meant the pictures could also be used for military purposes. India, whose 54-year-old space program is accelerating with 1 satellite launch scheduled every month, has ground stations in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Brunei Darussalam, Biak in eastern Indonesia, and Mauritius that track its satellites in the initial stages of flight. According to new research, the solar system may host a 9th planet that is about 10 times bigger than Earth and orbiting far beyond Neptune. Computer simulations show that the mystery planet, if it exists, would orbit about 20 times farther away from the Sun than Earth, according to the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. So far, the planet has not been observed directly, but they modeled the hypothetical planet's gravitational effects on several known bodies in the region and found a near-perfect match. The computer model also predicted the location of other objects beyond Neptune in a region known as the Kuiper Belt, and those were found in archived surveys as well. The institute said the search was now on to find the new planet. Earlier research helped to demote Pluto in 2006 as the solar system's 9th planet after other small icy bodies were found beyond Neptune.
Welcome back. After sweating through unseasonably high temperatures last week, residents of most Asian nations had to scavenge through their closets for sweaters and scarves to keep the chill off their bones. The cold spell has been lingering in North Korea for several days now, with temperatures in Samjeon County area plummeting to minus 34.5 degrees Celsius. In Japan, the unusual cold brought sleet as far south as Okinawa, a subtropical island known for its mild winters. Another southern island, Amami Oshima, recorded its first snow in more than a century. In Hong Kong, the mercury dipped to its lowest in 6 decades. The rest of southern China also recorded unusually cold weather, with record-breaking low temperatures in many places. In the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi, the temperature dropped to 5.4 degrees Celsius, the lowest since 1977. Meteorologists said mountaintop snowfalls across a dozen northern provinces were unprecedented. And in Bangkok, temperatures in Thai capital hit an unseasonably high of 34.6 degrees Celsius last Saturday, only to plunge to a low of 16 degrees Celsius 2 days later. The weather was still cool and Bangkok residents could be seen wearing jackets and wool caps. Schools in Bangkok were advised parents to bundle up their little ones with extra warm clothing. Katrin Knox again with the details.
North Korea's Taedong River has also frozen over due to the cold spell. The ice is firm enough for locals to enjoy ice fishing. The wide expanse of the Taedong River that runs through Pyongyang is completely frozen over. locals dressed in layers of warm clothes enjoy ice fishing on the river. An ice rink in downtown Pyongyang is crowded with skaters. The cold spell has been lingering in North Korea for several days now, with temperatures in Samjeon County in the Mount Baekdu area plummeting to minus 34.5 degrees Celsius. Snow falls hard in Pyongyang at night, and children can even be seen sledding on the streets. North Korean television has been providing in-depth weather forecasts for several consecutive days, urging residents to exercise caution. Pyongyang's indoor ice skating rink has also been teeming with skaters, despite the freezing temperatures inside as well as out. Some pedestrians in the capital Pyongyang walked backward to avoid facing the biting wind. But the cold did not stop intrepid fishermen from squatting on the frozen Taedong River in the center of the city in the hopes of catching a local delicacy. They hack holes through 40 centimeters of ice to send thin lines into the water below. North Koreans are accustomed to the severity of their winters and often take pride in how hardy they are to endure it. But this week's cold snap has been worse than usual. A cold snap hit South Korea this week, with the temperature in Seoul falling to minus 18 degrees Celsius. People in Seoul were bundled up to face the sudden cold snap. South Korea's Meteorological Administration has issued a cold warning for Seoul for the first time in 5 years. The weather agency issues the cold warning when the lowest morning temperature is expected to be below minus 15 degrees Celsius for 2 or more days. The temperature dropped to minus 16 degrees Celsius last Saturday, 5 degrees lower than a day earlier. Meanwhile, in Japan, strong winds from the west caused temperatures to drop to record lows in the southern part of the country. According to the meteorological agency, temperatures in Fukuoka, a city located in Kyushu, the southwesternmost of Japan's main islands, dropped to as low as minus 4 degrees Celsius. Warnings of heavy snowfall were also issued for the first time since 1983. Many trains going through Fukuoka were delayed due to heavy snow, with some passengers giving up their trips and returning home instead. A total of 51 flights scheduled to depart from Fukuoka Airport were cancelled on Sunday due to heavy snow, and 11 were cancelled by Monday, January 25th afternoon. Okinawa, an island south of Japan, saw its lowest temperatures in 55 years as heavy rain turned to sleet. Another island, Amami Oshima, located between Kyushu and Okinawa, received snow for the first time in 115 years. China has been grappling with an extreme cold wave that's brought the chilliest winter in decades. But at least for northern China, that's coming to an end, as after the weekend, the cold wave has left and temperatures started to pick up. Many cities south of the Yangtze River saw temperatures below zero. The lowest temperature in eastern China's Zhejiang province was 20 degrees Celsius below zero. The lowest temperature in Shanghai was minus 7 degrees Celsius. The typically milder cities in southern China also saw their first snow in decades during the weekend, but that has caused highway closures, possible power outages, and mad rushes to shops as people load up on supplies. Usually the lowest temperature in January in Guangzhou remains around on average about 10 degrees Celsius. Some made snowmen in excitement, though they only have a small amount of the snow. Elsewhere in southwest China's Kongjing province, residents experienced the first snowfall in about 2 decades, which normally can only be seen on the big screen. Meanwhile, to avoid outdoor activities in the unusually freezing weather, markets and stores in South and East China have seen people stock up on food and necessities. Meteorological experts say the cold wave is due to an extreme high temperature from the North Pole. It was said that the unusual temperature rise in the North Pole has caused the polar vortex being pressed south to Siberia. It then affected countries at mid-latitudes such as East Asia and North America. Kindergartens and primary schools have been closed in Hong Kong since Monday after temperatures dropped to their lowest since 1957. The Hong Kong Observatory, the city's weather forecaster, said temperatures were around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius on Monday morning. As residents braved the cold with their winter attire, most people agreed with the government's move to cancel classes. Average temperatures dropped to 3.1 degrees in wet and windy Hong Kong, while many ventured up Hong Kong's highest peak, Tai Mo Shan, where temperatures reportedly reached minus 5.7 at its coldest. A local paper also reported that 111 people had been injured and 45 were hospitalized, some with hypothermia. Despite the mercury rising to 10 degrees Celsius later, the observatory predicts cold weather will go on for several days, with the Centre for Health Protection reminding the elderly and ill to protect themselves. Further to the south, parts of Vietnam were experiencing the coldest winter in 40 years. Temperatures dropping to as low as minus 4 degrees Celsius in the northern mountain provinces bordering China. 15 degrees Celsius would be the normal average for this time of year. Many farmers who have never seen snow in their lives say they have lost their crops, as the plantations are mostly vegetables that cannot cope with the extreme cold and snow. Hundreds of tourists are also stranded at the town of Sapa, Lao Cai province near the border with China. Police say they're struggling to direct traffic because motorists are not used to travelling on snowy and icy roads. Vietnam, together with other Asian countries, is suffering an unusually cold and harsh winter, with temperatures having dropped to as low as minus 48 degrees Celsius in northern China. Cold spells gripping northern Thailand have caused 14 deaths, affecting health among children and elderly people and interrupting farming and livestock. Like in other parts of the world, Thailand faces severe weather change this year. A significant temperature plunge has been experienced throughout the country. A sharp cold spell saw temperatures dropping between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius. Mercury in Bangkok has gone down to as low as 15 degrees in the last couple of days. In the northern and northeastern regions, minimum temperatures may plunge to as low as 8 degrees Celsius. Some schools in Nan province have been suspended for 2 days. Hospitals in many provinces have admitted higher number of patients with respiratory symptoms, mostly children and elderly people. In Mukdahan alone, over 2,000 people each day have sought medical attention at hospitals. 2 more deaths were reported in Byung Kan province. Both were found dead in their beds. District Chief of Warin Chamrap in Ubon Ratchathani reported that over 400 tons of fish died in 21 farms, causing damage of over 26 million baht. He blamed the unusual cold weather for the losses.
And that's it for this week's Primetime Asia. We'll be back at the same time next week with more news and features from the Asia-Pacific region. For more news, you can visit our website at www.rtbnews.rtb.gov.bn. I'm Nur Fida Fendi, wishing you a good week ahead and good night. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.